Welcome back. Welcome to our comprehensive study of Discourse and Power. Over the next 3 hours, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating and essential topics in contemporary linguistics, sociology, and communication studies: how language and power interact to shape our social world. Let me walk you through what we will be covering today. Our course is structured around 15 major sections that will take you from foundational concepts to practical application. Let me walk you through what we'll be covering today. Our course is structured around 15 major sections that will take you from foundational concepts to practical application. We'll begin with an introduction asking why study discourse and power, establishing why this knowledge matters for your life. Then we'll define what is discourse, ensuring we have a clear understanding of this fundamental concept. Next, we'll examine power in discourse through a conceptual framework, understanding how power operates through language. Will explore critical discourse analysis, CDA, the primary methodology for studying these phenomena. We'll then look at power dynamics in everyday interactions, how power operates in conversations you have daily. We'll examine language, social control, and resistance, showing how language both constrains and liberates. We'll distinguish and investigate discourse and identity construction, how language creates who we are. We'll analyze media discourse and power, examining how news and media shape reality through language choices. We'll explore classroom discourse and the power relations, and then focus specifically on the role of the discussion leader. We'll examine cross cultural power in discourse and how cultural differences affect the power dynamics. We'll engage in a practical exercise applying discourse analysis, then provide a summary of key concepts. We will offer reflection and discussion questions for deeper engagement. Finally, we conclude with empowering through awareness, showing how this knowledge transforms you into a more concise, effective communicator. This comprehensive structure moves from theory to practice, from broad concepts to specific applications, equipping you with both understanding and practical skills for analyzing and navigating power relations in language. Now let's move to course outline. Introduction, why study discourse and the power. What is discourse? Power in discourse, the conceptual framework, critical discourse analysis, CDA, power of dynamics or power dynamics in everyday interactions, language as social control and resistance, discourse and identity construction, media discourse and the power, classroom discourse and the power relations, the role of the discussion leader, power and responsibility, cross-cultural power in discourse, applying discourse and the power analysis, practical exercise, summary of key concepts, reflecting and discussion questions Conclusion: empowering through awareness. Learning objectives define discourse and explain its relationship with power structured society, identify different types of discourse and their unique characteristics, analyze how power operates within and behind discourse in various contexts, examine real-world examples of power dynamics in discourse across institutions, media, and everyday interactions. Learning outcomes articulate the concept of discourse and its social significance in shaping reality and relationships. Distinguish between power and discourse and the power behind discourse, understanding both micro and macro levels. Critically analyze texts or spoken interactions for power relations and uh, as asymmetries, recognize how language can manipulate, control, or empower individuals and communities, reflect on their own participation in discourse and the power dynamics in daily life, engage in formal discussions about discourse and social power structures with nuance and awareness. So let's start with introduction, why study discourse and power. Now let's address the fundamental question, why study discourse and power? Why does this matter? Language surrounds us constantly, yet we really pause to question its deeper function. Think about it from the moment you woke up to scrolling through social media, reading news, attending classes, talking with friends. Every moment involves a language, but how often do you stop to ask, how is the language shaping what I think? How is it positioning me in relations to others? Whose interests does it serve? We communicate, persuade, inform, and connect through words, but a language is far from a neutral tool. This is crucial to understand. The language isn't transparent. Isn't just a window onto reality. It isn't a neutral medium for transmitting pre-existing meanings. Every utterance, every text, every conversation carries layers of meaning that both reflect and actively construct social realities. The study of discourse and power unveils these hidden dimensions, revealing how language operates as a vehicle for influence, control, and social language. When you said discourse and the power, you see beneath the surface of communication to the mechanical mechanisms that shape consciousness, maintain hierarchies, enable resistance, and construct itself. Construct reality itself. Michael Foucault, the groundbreaking French philosopher, revolutionized our understanding by proposing that power doesn't simply flow from the top down, from rules to subjects, from bosses to workers, from teachers to students. It is the traditional conception of power. Those at the top have it, those at the bottom don't. But Foucault showed that power circulates through discourse itself. Power is everywhere language exists, woven into the fabric of our daily interactions, institutional practices, and cultural narratives. A casual conversation between friends involves power. A new article involves power. A classroom discussion involves power. Power isn't something some people have and others don't. It's constantly operating in all communicative interactions. Understanding this relationship helps us recognize hidden ideologies embodied in seemingly neutral language, uncover mechanisms of social control operating through discourse, and ultimately become more conscious participants in the discourses that shape our lives. This knowledge is liberating. It reveals what was hidden, enabling you to respond strategically rather than unconsciously accepting whatever meaning are offered. Um, for students, this knowledge has immediate relevance, not abstract, not distant, not just academic, from classroom discussions to social media posts. Um, shapes your experiences and opportunities every single day. You're navigating multiple discourses with real consequences. Consider classroom discourse. How you speak in class affects your grades, your relationships with teachers, how you perceived by peers, whether you're seen as intelligent or confused, engaged or apathetic. Teachers control topics, evaluate contributions, determine whose ideas matter. This is power operating through discourse, shaping your educational opportunities. Consider social media. The language you use constructs your online identity. Algorithms amplify certain voices while suppressing others. Power operating behind discourse. Hashtags create communities and movements. Discourse enabling resistance. Consider news consumption. Headlines frame how you understand events. World choices shape whether you see protesters as heroes or threats, whether you support or oppose policies. Media discourse constructs your political reality. Consider workplace conversations, how you speak with supervisors versus colleagues, formal versus informal gestures, who can joke versus who must be serious, all involve power dynamics that affect your career perspectives. By the developing critical awareness of how power operates through language, you gain tools to navigate complex social situations, challenge injustice when you encounter it, recognize manipulation attempts, whether from advertisers or politicians, and use your own voice more effectively to achieve your goals and advocate for what you believe. Whether analyzing a political speech, participating in a debate, or simply having a conversation with friends, understanding its source and power transforms you from a passive language user into an active critical thinker who can recognize and respond to the subtle ways language shapes reality. You move from being shaped by discourse to consciously participating in shaping it. Um, so let's go to Foucault's quote on power. Here's Foucault's a famous statement that captures his revolutionary reconceptualization of power. Power is everywhere, and not because it embraces everything, but because it comes from everywhere. Let me unpack this profound statement. Traditional conceptions saw power as centralized, possessed by rulers, governments, imposes located at the top of hierarchies and flowing downward. You either have power or you don't. Foucault says no, power is everywhere. But notice the crucial clarification, not because it embraces everything, not because there is one totalizing power controlling all, but because it comes from everywhere. Power emerges from multiple sources simultaneously, operating in multiple directions, circulating through networks of social relationships. This means power operates in your conversation with your doctor, and how your professor frames questions, in how news media represents stories, and how you text your friends. Power isn't just in government buildings or corporate headquarters. It's in every interaction, every text, every communicative exchange. This is why studying discourse matters, because discourse is where power circulates, where it becomes real and conceptual, where it shapes lives and creates possibilities while for losing or yeah for losing others. What is discourse? Now let's define our central concept. What is discourse? Discourse refers to structured language use within specific social contexts. This definition has several crucial components, so let me break it down. First, discourse is structured language use, not random words, not isolated sentences, but organized patterned ways of using language. These patterns follow conventions, fulfill social functions, and create coherent meanings. Second, it occurs within specific social contexts. The same words mean differently in different concepts. That's sick means something very different when a teenager says it's about a cool skateboard trick versus when a doctor says it about a patient. Context, who's speaking to whom, for what purpose, in what situation shapes meaning fundamentally. Discourse is more than just words or sentences. It encompasses entire systems of meaning making that occur in particular situations involving specific participants, purposes, and conventions. A medical consultation is a discourse with specific patterns. A doctor asks questions, patient answers, specialized terminology gets used, diagnosis get delivered. Job interview is a discourse with different patterns. Interviewer controls topics. Candidate presents self strategically. Formality is expected. Discourse creates and reflects social relationships, identities, and the power structures. When a judge says the court finds you guilty, there is not just describing reality, there is creating it. That utterance within the legal discourse context transforms someone's status, constrains their freedom, affects their life profoundly. Discourse has real material consequences. This course operates as multiple levels from individual conversations and micro level to large scale societal narratives that shape how we understand the world's macro level. A conversation between you and your friend is this course. The entire way Western societies talk about terrorism is discourse. The narratives of the American dream is discourse. All these levels interact and shape each other. Types of discourse, narrative and descriptive. Discourse comes in different types, each with distinct characteristics and social functions. Let me walk you through the major types. Narrative discourse. Narrative discourse tells stories with plot, characters, and sequence. Narratives organize events into meaningful patterns with beginnings, middles, and ends. They establish causation, why things happened, and the significance, what events mean. Examples include novels, personal uh, anecdotes. You tell friends historical accounts of what happened in the past and news stories that follow a narrative arc. Even though news claim objectivity, most news stories are narratives. Something happened. Here is what led to do. What led to do. Here is what it means. Here is what might happen next. Narratives are powerful because they don't just report facts, they organize facts into meaningful wholes that shape understanding. The same events can be narrated differently with the different implications. Was World War II a narrative of American heroism defeating evil or imperial power fighting over global dominance? Or complex geopolitical struggles with multiple perspectives, the narrative you tell shapes what the war means. Then let's go for descriptive discourse. Descriptive discourse portrays characteristics, features, or qualities of subject. It aims to help audiences visualize, understand, or appreciate what something is like. Found product descriptions that make you want to buy, character sketches, and novels that help you imagine personalities, scientific observations that document the phenomena precisely, and travel writing that evokes places. Description seems neutral, just reporting what there, but description always involves choices. Which features get described, which are ignored, what languages get, say, used, positive, negative, neutral. These choices shape perception and serve interests. A real estate agent describes a small apartment as cozy and intimate, while a critic might call the same space cramped and claustrophobic. Same reality, different descriptions, different effects. Argumentative discourse. Argumentative discourse presents claims with supportive evidence to persuade audiences to believe or do something. Argument is central to democratic societies, to academic inquiry, to legal systems, to everyone and everyday disagreements. Examples include editorials arguing for policy positions, academic essays arguing for interpretations, legal briefs arguing for verdicts, debates where participants argue opposing positions, and political speeches arguing why you should vote for someone. Argument involves structure, claim, what's your arguing, evidence support for your claim, reasoning how evidence supports claim, acknowledgement of counter arguments, and refutation of opposing views. Effective argument requires understanding your audience and what evidence they find persuasive. Power operates in argument through who gets to make arguments, whose choices are here, the what counts as legitimate evidence, scientific students and scientific studies versus personal experience, and what argumentative styles are valued, aggressive versus collaborative. Expository discourse. Expository discourse explains or informs objectively about topics. The goal is understanding rather than persuasion. Through the line between explaining and persuading is often blurry. Examples include textbooks explaining concepts, encyclopedia, and tries entries providing information how to guide teaching skills and instructional materials in educational contexts. Expository discourse claims neutrality and objectivity, but even objective explanation involves choices about what to include, how to frame information, what terminology is to use, what examples to give. These choices can reproduce ideologies while painting neutral in instructional discourse. Instructional discourse provides directions or procedures for completing tasks. It's action-oriented, designed to help someone do something, found in recipes, how to cook a dish, manuals, how to assemble furniture or operate equipment, tutorials, how to use software, and classroom teaching sequences where teachers provide instructions for activities. Instructional discourse involves power asymmetry. The instructor knows, the instructor doesn't. This instructor controls not just information, but the very framework for how tasks get accomplished. This seemingly neutral discourse type actually maintains experience and expertise based hierarchies. Then let's go to discourse constructs reality. And now I want to emphasize perhaps the most important insight about discourse. Discourse does not merely describe pre-existing reality. It actively constructs social meanings and identities. This is counter-initiative. Common sense tells us reality exists independently of language, and the language just describes it. But discourse analysis shows this backwards, or at least far too simple. Through repeated patterns of language use, discourse establishes what counts as true, normal, or valuable in a given context. Repeated patterns become neutralized. They seem like just the way things are rather than constructed choices. Let me give you a concrete example. Consider how news media frame the same event differently based on ideological stance. Imagine protest. One outlet might describe protesters as activists fighting for justice. This language constructed them as heroes, as people courageously standing up for what is right against injustice. The verbs are positive, fighting for, suggesting a noble struggle. The noun justice frames their cause as righteous. Another outlet calls them writers causing chaos. This language constructs them as threats, as people disrupting order and creating danger. The noun writers suggests violence and criminality, causing chaos, frames them as destroying rather than building, as problems requiring suppression. The same event, the same physical action, the same people, the same day, but two different discourses construct entirely different social realities. The first discourse might lead audiences to support the protesters, to join them, to pressure government to address their concerns. The second discourse might lead audiences to support policy and police crackdowns, to fear protesters, to demand orders to be restored. This is discourse constructing reality, influencing public perception and response, shaping what happens next. Neither description is simply true or false. There is different ways of constructing meaning that serve different interests and have different consequences. The symbol applies everywhere. Medical discourse constructs what counts as disease versus health. Legal discourse constructs what counts as crime versus acceptable behavior. Educational discourse constructs what counts as knowledge versus opinion, intelligence versus stupidity. All these constructions have real material effects on people's lives. Uh, mm, Power in discourse, the conceptual framework, Foucault's revolutionary view. Michael Foucault transformed how we understand power. Um, and understanding this contribution or his contribution is essential for discourse analysis. Foucault argued that power is relational and omnipresent rather than possessed by individuals or institutions. Traditional political theory saw power as something you have or do not have, something located in particular places, government operations, corporations, military, and possessed by particular people, rulers, bosses, generals. Uh, Foucault said no power is relational, meaning it exists in relationships, not in people or institutions per se. You do not have power in isolation. Power emerges in interactions, in how people relate to each other in social networks and connections. Power is omnipresent. It exists everywhere, operating in every interaction and relationship. A parent-child conversation involves power. A doctor-patient consultation involves power. Professor-student in discussion involves power. Flirting involves power. Flirting involves power. Small talk involves power. Power isn't just in dramatic confrontations between protesters and the police. It's in every communicative exchange. Crucially, power is not simply repressive, but also productive. Traditional conceptions saw power as negative. It says no. It prohibits. It represses. It constrains. Vocal showed power is also productive. It creates knowledge, produces identities, enables possibilities for action, makes things happen. For example, psychiatric power doesn't just repress mad people, it produces the category of mental illnesses, produces knowledge about psychology, produces identity. I am depressed. I have ADHD, produce the treatments and institutions. Educational power doesn't just repress students, it produces knowledge, it produces identities. I am a good student, I'm not math-minded, produces skills and capabilities. This doesn't mean power is good. Foucault isn't celebrating power. He is showing it's more complex than simple repression. Power simultaneously constrains and enables oppresses and produces. Understanding this complexity is crucial for effective resistance. You cannot just overthrow power. You must understand how it operates to redirect it toward different ends. Power circulates through social networks operating in every interaction, doesn't flow simply from top to bottom, but circulates multiply. Um, Creating complex patterns where the same person might exercise power um, in one context while being subject to it in another. You might have power over your younger sibling while lacking power in your boss's office. Power is situational, relational, constantly negotiated. Now let's move to power and discourse conceptual framework. Um, Now let's distinguish two crucial concepts for analyzing power and discourse. Uh, Power and discourse. This refers to how participants control or constrain communication within specific interactions. It's the macro level analysis of how power operates in particular conversations. Question to ask: who speaks and how much? Who listens? Whose topics matter? Who's get pursued versus whose get ignored or dismissed? How are turns managed? Who can interrupt whom? Who must wait politely? who can speak for how long. For example, in a doctor-patient consultation, the doctor typically controls the interaction. The doctor asks questions, what brings you in today? The patient answers. The doctor controls topics moving from symptoms to medical history to diagnosis to treatment. The doctor interrupts patients frequently. Patients really interrupts doctors. The doctor uses specialized terminology. Patients use lay language. This asymmetry reflects and reinforces the doctor's power behind discourse. This refers to broader social, political, and economic forces that shape language's use. It's the macro level analysis of how social structures enable certain discourse while constraining others. This includes institutional structures, hospitals, schools, court create discourse contexts, cultural norms, what considered polite, appropriate, or meaningful in a culture. Historical context is how past events shape current discourse possibilities and ideological frameworks underlying belief systems that make certain things thinkable or unthinkable. For example, the medical consultation doesn't just happen, it's shaped by the entire medical institution, by economic systems that determine who has access to healthcare, by cultural beliefs about science and expertise, by legal frameworks that give doctors authority, by historical developments that created modern medicine. All this is power behind discourse, shaping what can happen in specific medical interactions. Both levels matter. You cannot understand the specific conversation without understanding the broader context that shapes it. And you cannot understand social structures without examining how they manifest in actual interactions. Effective discourse analysis move between these levels, showing how macro structures become real in micro interactions and how micro interactions reproduce or challenge macro structures. Now let's move to the Janus-phased nature of power. Power operates with two phases, like the Roman god Janus, astaghfirullah, who looked simultaneously in appropriate directions. Understanding both phases is crucial for sophisticated analysis. On one side, power can be repressive. It constrains what can be said, silences certain voices, excludes particular perspectives, and dominates those subject to it. This is the familiar face of censorship, coercion, and control. Think of censorship that prohibits certain speech. Think of institutional rules about what can be discussed. Think of social norms that make certain topics taboo. Think of interruptions that silence someone trying to speak. Think of mockery that punishes someone for speaking. All these are repressive faces of power. On the other side, power is liberatory. It enables action, creates possibilities, empowers voices, and facilitates resistance. Power doesn't just constrain, it reduces, it makes things possible. Think of how social movement use discourse to challenge injustice. Think of how education gives students language to articulate their experience. Think of how medical knowledge enables the diagnosis and the treatment. Think of how legal rights language enables people to claim justice. Power enables all this. The crucial insights. The same discourse can simultaneously constrain some participants while enabling others. This is why power is complex rather than simply good or bad. Consider a corporate meeting. This discourse gives power to managers to direct action, make decisions, allocate resources. That's enabling for managing, but the same discourse may also create opportunities for um, employees to voice concerns, negotiate conditions, propose alternatives. That's enabling for workers simultaneously. The meeting constraints managers. They cannot ignore all worker input without the consequences, and the constraints the workers. They cannot speak however they want, must follow meeting protocols, may face relation or retaliation for too much dissent. Understanding this dual nature is crucial for critical discourse analysis. We must ask not only who is being controlled, but also who is being enabled, and what new possibilities does this discourse create. Power is never simply negative or positive, it's complex, multi-directional, and constantly negotiated through language use. This means the resistance isn't about escaping power, that's impossible. Resistance means redirecting power, using it for different purposes, creating alternative discourses that enable different possibilities. Critical Discourse Analysis CDA Introduction. Now let me introduce Critical Discourse Analysis, or CDA, the primary methodology for students' discourse and power. Critical discourse analysis is an interdisciplinary approach to studying language that reveals how power relations, ideologies, and social inequalities are reproduced or changed through texts and talk. Let me break down this definition. CDA is interdisciplinary. It draws on linguistics, studying language structure, sociology, studying social relations, political theory, studying power and ideology, communication, studies, anthropology, and other fields. This breadth is necessary because this course operates across all these domains. CDA reveals how power relations, ideologies, and social inequities are reproduced through discourse. Reproduced in the keyword CDA shows how discourse doesn't just reflect existing inequalities, but actively maintain them, making them seem natural in inevitable, just the way things are. But CDA also examines how discourse challenges inequalities, how marginalized groups use language to resist, how alternative discourses create possibilities for social change. CDA isn't just about critique, it's about transformation, developed by scholars like Norman Fairclough, Tune Van Dyke, and Ruth Woodick. These are the founding figures who established CDA as a field in the 1980s and the 1990s. Each brought different emphasis, but all shared the commitment to revealing and challenging social injustice through language analysis. CDA goes beyond describing language patterns to critically examine their social and political implications. Traditional linguistics might describe how passive voice works grammatically. CDA asks who uses passive voice when, and what social functions does it serve. Does it hide responsibility? Does it neutralize oppression? These political questions distinguish CDA from purely descriptive linguistics. Um, Core principles of CDA discourse reflect social reality. Now let's examine the core principles that guide critical discourse analysis. Understanding these principles is essential for applying CDA methodology. First principle, discourse reflects social reality. Language use both mirrors existing social structures and actively constructs them, creates dialectical a relationship between discourse and society. Let me explain this dialectical relationship. It's not one directional but mutual. Discourse reflects society. The language we use shows what our society values, what power relations exists, what ideologies operate. If you study how people talk, you learn about the society they live in. But discourse also constructs society. Language doesn't just describe social reality, but actively creates it. Through discourse, we make things real, establish categories, construct identities, naturalize hierarchies. Society shapes discourse, but discourse also shape society. This is dialectical, mutually constitutive, constantly interactive, neither simply cause nor simply effect. For example, consider gender discourse. Traditional gender discourse, boys do not cry, girls should be polite. Men are strong, women are nurturing, reflects existing gender inequality in society. But this discourse also constructs gender inequality by teaching children how to be boys or girls, by naturalizing different expectations, by punishing violations, by making gender difference seem natural rather than cultural. A gender discourse changes as people challenge traditional gender binaries. As LGBTQ plus discourse becomes more visible, as parents raise children with less rigid gender expectations, society changes. Now, a new discourse creates new possibilities for gender identity and expression. Changes society, then enables a new discourse dialectical. This principle means CTA analyzes discourses or discourse both to understand society and to change it. By revealing how discourse constructs inequality, CDA creates opportunities for constructing alternative discourses that might create more just societies. Thank you so much for watching me teaching you this wonderful subject, discourse and power. Till next time, ta-ta for now.